Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another spotlight interview with Global Thought Leaders, an initiative by RightSource Global. I am Zishan Pathan, Director of Client Services at RightSource Global and a council member of Global Thought Leaders. Along with me, I have my colleague, friend, and a council member of Global Thought Leaders, Heval Mehta, the Chief Growth Officer at RSG. Global Thought Leaders is a platform for industry stalwarts to cross pollinate with their experiences, thoughts, ideas, and best practices to inspire each other and future leaders. Through spotlight interviews, we strive to bring the community of eminent personalities together from across the globe. We bring the expertise of various functions, roles, and sectors together on one platform to inspire future leaders. We have one such industry stalwart today on the spotlight with us, Kavita. So Kavita is a renowned individual in technology industry. I would request Havel to introduce our today's eminent personality. Over to you, Havel.
Thank you so much, Zishan, for giving me this opportunity to introduce Kavita. Well, I'm sure everyone knows Kavita and she does not require any introduction. However, it's always an honor to speak about Kavita Kurup. Kavita is the global head for talent and organizational transformation at UST, a leading digital technology solutions company that provides advanced computing and digital services to global 1,000 companies, leveraging innovative technology solutions and pioneering social programs. Her global team of HR practitioners is reimagining leadership and talent practices to create a dynamic, challenging, and work environment, fueling UST's differentiation in the market and organization's purpose of transforming lives. Over the past year, Kavita has championed several organizational transformation initiatives revolving around managing high performance, learning and development, diversity and inclusion, organizational effectiveness, talent management, and social responsibility. Kavita is passionate about nurturing collaboration, talent, and creating solutions. She currently oversees the growth, development, and HR support of more than 25,000 employees in 23 countries. She was previously serving as the Senior Vice President and Chief Learning Officer at Axis Bank and has led various HR teams across the industry for the years. We welcome Kavita to Spotlight.
Thank you, Zishan.
Well, the introduction itself was inspiring, I must say that. Right. So your journey is inspiring to many professionals in your function, Kavita. However, there is an unheard story behind your success, right? So what are the key highlights of your journey from the beginning of your career to the current role of global head, talent and organizational transformation?
So, Zishan, I wish I could tell you that this was the plan all along, but sometimes the careers we find are the ones we fall into, right? So I think throughout my career, I have pressed for, whatever needs to be done rather than waiting for someone to come and tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, here is something that comes your way. I think, it was important for me to always call out and say that, I have a good combination of skill sets and roles, and I think I'd be able to do it well. And that's what has really set the stage for me to be in the role that I have today. When I started my career, as many people do, I thought all you need to do is keep your head down, work hard, and everything will be fine, right? You'll advance, you'll get rewarded, people will recognize what you do. But over the years, what I've come to realize is that it is important to develop relationships and not just with the people you're working with. Yeah? That's very obvious, but also outside of your immediate circle, within the industry, even with random people, because you do not know how those conversations, how those relationships would really make an impact on you and how you would make an impact on them. Uh, as women, I think we tend to downplay our successes. We tend to take everything with a pinch of salt and say, ye to hona hi tha. Everyone had to just do it. There isn't anything extraordinary that we have done. I think it's important to uh, discuss that, right? Discuss our skills with a boss, with our group of peers, with people around. Because if we don't speak up for ourselves, then I don't think it's right to expect someone else to do it for us, right? So we need to not really blow our own trumpet, but recognize the value we bring to the table, recognize the hard work that's gone behind it, and how is it that we've really reached where we have. For me, the constant in my life is that I'm always moving to the next opportunity, the next challenge, the next organization. So I think even if you do not think you're really ready for it, you are, if that opportunity has come your way. So the hidden secret for me is I never say no to any opportunity or challenge that comes my way. I don't, irrespective of how busy I am, it doesn't matter how many verticals or projects I am on. If someone comes and says, hey, here is something new and do you want to try it out? I will say yes. And then figure out how I need to do it. I think for the young girls who are joining the workforce, right, it's important for us to take a page out of the men's confidence book, right, and realize when the opportunity presents, just to take that leap, right? You just rush into that fire and then figure out this is how you will really live your life and figure it out. But while we're talking about some of the things that I've learned in my career, for me, what's been very, very important and really the foundation of the way I live my life is one of my favorite memories, which I have with my great grandmother. So I'm from Kerala, traditionally, and she was this lady who managed our home, our family, our ancestral lands. She knew how to read and write 5 languages, including English and Sanskrit, and who thought much ahead of her times. And she was always curious, right, wanting to know what was happening in the world, challenging stereotypes within our family, community, and constantly surprising us with nuggets of knowledge, skill, informations when we would go for the the ritual annual summer holiday when we would go down. And during one of these summer holiday visits, right, we were walking through our fields in Kerala, and she just paused, turned around, and told me, you have one life. Learn all you can, explore all you can, share all you can, and live all you can. At that time, she was 97, I was 15. But that has been my philosophy ever since, right? And I have a little frame of her, which is there in my office, it's there near my bedside, to constantly remind me of this every day. So, yeah, just live life like an adventure.
I must say that's amazing insight. In fact, you mentioned about challenging the constant, right? And just on those grounds, I would like to jump on to the next question. That is, what are the key changes you brought in your function to make it more efficient and effective, especially when you're working in a technology domain?
So, when we look at UST, right, UST's purpose is all about transforming lives for our employees, our clients, and for the societies that we live in, right, the communities that surround us. And that purpose has made inroads into every aspect of how we work at UST, whether it's the way we deal with our clients, our internal processes, the businesses that we bring to the organization. So all of it is there, right? So the focus of every function is how do you make an impact. And I think from an HR standpoint also, that's what we do. What can we do to make an impact to the talent of the organization, to the clients we work with, and how do you really present the organization as this amazing place of work where people can not only get challenged and innovate but also have fun at the same time. So if you just triangulate it, right, so we look at inspiring the leaders so that they're able to walk the talk and deliver at any point in time. Accelerate ambition, because that's so important. If people do not realize that they can build careers within the organization, they will the thought at the back of their mind is constantly going to be, where else can I go, who else do I speak to, which recruitment firm can I reach out to. And finally, how do you connect these strengths, right, these diverse voices across the organization, while we respect them and we challenge them to bring those voices into the conversation? How do you really make sure they blend so that they present a united front? So those are, the philosophies around which we work. Now, if you look at it, right, oil was the old currency, data is the current currency, and skills are the new currency. So while the HR function is almost the custodian of what happens within the organization, I think the HR function also needs to go through a complete revamp or a rehaul of the way it looks at things. Because clearly what got us here will not help us take the organization to the next level. So database decision making, dealing with ambiguity, all of these, right? So if you look at database decision making backed with human skills, How do you really prepare people with the skills for tomorrow, dealing with emotional intelligence, collaboration, comfort with, technology? All of these nuggets then come in and make sure that we are able to drive the function to the next level. Now, at UST, right, the aspiration is to become a scientific HR function, right? We're constantly building hypotheses, testing it with data, setting up experiments, running pilots while BAU is also happening, because we're constantly trying to improve the employee experience. I think the last 1.5 years has made us realize that you can't have work and life which were earlier very distinct, right? Work has become a subset of life. So if work has become a subset of life, what are the feelings associated with work, and how can you really help people experience those feelings in every individual process that impacts them from the time they join the organization till they leave the organization? So there's a lot of automation that is taking place. There's a lot of new age thinking and different ways of really bringing in that entire aspect. So there is no verbiage of an internal customer. Everyone does HR everywhere, whether it's the function, whether it's the leaders, whether it's every employee. How do you really make sure that efficiency becomes a byproduct of what all you're doing, right? So that is the thought process with which we are working. And personally, I think, I love building innovative and high performance environments. They foster great culture, they give a lot of employee joy. And if you look at business and talent, the alchemy of both coming together, that's fascinating. And I think over the next 2-3 years, looking at the direction that the HR function's taking and the changes that we are doing, I think this will come to a head over the next 2-3 years.
I must acknowledge with those amazing initiatives taken. And Kavita, you also spoke about transforming the lives of the workforce. However, during this COVID period, there is something which has come up, which is related to resilience, right? So, what are the key roles senior HR professionals must play to build a resilient workforce?
So, what is resilience really, all about? If you, get into the details of what resilience means, it is, and as you say resilience, I'm only reminded of, Frankel's book, right? Man's Search for Meaning, where he talked about when we can no longer change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves, right? So resilience holds more openness to future growth and possibilities, right? It is a quality that was summoned in us by all the challenges of 2020, but it's also the quality that is going to take us forward into 2021. So the pandemic, while it taught us to survive in 2020, I think it's going to teach us to thrive in 2021. But if you look at it from an organizational standpoint, or the way leaders really, had to play, what is the role that leaders had to play? I think leaders who, were a lot more empathetic, leaders who listened, leaders who had a lot of connects with their existing organization, with their teams already, they were the ones who were, really successful. They were the ones who, led with humility, were able to make sure that the teams were able to deal with the pandemic a lot better, right? And if you look at remote really has two meanings, right? One is operating effectively from a distance, and the second is being distant and unapproachable. So one of the first things that we did when we started off with the pandemic and we went into the work from home is roll out a campaign called DigiB, which basically said what are the digital ways that you can build personal connections and strengthen working relationships. Because it was a huge pivot for a lot of people who were so used to doing things together in the workplace to now suddenly move into a work from home conversation. So those were some of the things that we do. So I think if you were to just ask me three key things, that the strategies that will help organizations is create opportunities to create social capital, build technology and integrate technology for frustration free remote working, so people can just focus, right? All the enablers, all the transactions get automated to a large extent. And finally, embed well-being into the workflow, right? Things that we take for granted in the old normal, where you stop to have a coffee, you had a little conversation around the water cooler, you participated in certain activities that were happening, there were contests and competitions, and every organization has this. All of that is not there, right? You're isolated at home, and all of that is being And the only interaction you really get is as we are to embed well-being into the workflow, where somebody is told that they need to take time out to take care of their whole selves, not just their mental health, right? So heart, body, mind, soul, how do they really take care of everything together? And those were some of the things that we tried to put in place.
Amazing. Kavita, in fact, in the current role, you are also taking care of the organizational transformation, right?
Yeah.
In fact, I would say HR function in itself is undergoing a rapid transformation, right? So how do you see it evolving in near future?
So, if you just look at maybe the way things have changed over the last few years, I think some of the shifts that you have seen is one that resources have started being considered as people and not workers. People have, organizations have started recognizing the fact that they are people and human beings. Second is that work is becoming a subset of life. So in the old paradigm, leadership was, like a pack of lions. You had one alpha male and everybody else was subordinate to this male, right? There's a very clear hierarchy when it came to feeding, eating, everything else. But today it is more like a beehive, right? Where everybody is interconnected and doing these things. And I think that is coming out even more in the HR function, where, the purpose is becoming creation and not consumption. How can you really go ahead and make life a lot easier for the employees? How can you shift from managing the employee experience to managing the employee's life experience? They have started becoming of importance now. Earlier on, it was just important to make sure they get their salary at the end of the month. But today, there is a lot more that's happening within the employee's life that the organization needs to be involved in, right? The flexibility will move from location to time. And of course, as I said, motivated by improving the well-being of people and communities that have lasting intrinsic value. So UST, what we did was we developed two strategic programs that cut through this entire talent management practices and platforms while addressing both aspirations, the employee standpoint as well as the business standpoint, right? So the first one is called the Talent DNA program. This creates a unique identity for each employee. It offers clarity and options for a future ready career framework, and then invests in employees to navigate through their custom careers using tools, right? So we created tools. We have a feedback and goal setting tool called North Star. We have our own career management tool called Career Velocity. And this is designed for market responsive teams, right? And to enable high performance within those teams through a network of performance coaches who have been built within the ecosystem. So you have role models really teaching others or coaching others on how they can become as good or as bad as the people they look up to within the organization. The second one is, of course, the talent supply chain program, which uses machine learning technology to make sense of the talent and demand, demand and supply parameters, shape demand and supply targeting, improve the operational efficiency. So create a marketplace, right, for talent where people have the democracy to really go across and choose from the various roles that are available. Managers have the right to go and select the right people for their teams depending on what is required. So guiding that entire workforce and management in this continuous talent transformation, efforts, upskilling, reskilling, cross skilling, all of that making a very large component of that. So these are some of the things that we have, put in place, and I think will form the bedrock for the transformations that we want to bring about within UST.
Great, great. So though you have touched upon the people strategy a bit, before. What are the key people strategies during this COVID period which helped the organizations, and in fact, UST in particular?
So, it's interesting that you bring that up and you're saying specifically to COVID, right? I think what went really a very long way is the existing relationships that people had within UST. So even though we all moved to a work from home format, a lot of the activities, a lot of the fun stuff that we would do other than work, they continue to happen. It just moved into a virtual space, right? And people continue to stay in touch. A host of initiatives that we took to make sure that we stayed connected with our people, town halls, one-on-one connect, ask me anything sessions. And we didn't just restrict it to our workforce, right? So at the beginning of the pandemic, what we did was we actually reached out to every single person who's ever worked with UST, and we send them all an email saying, hey, we know that these are tough times, and we do not know what path are you on and where in your careers you all are at. But if you need any help, and if there's anything that UST can do to help and support you, please reach out to us and we will work with you. You're still part of the UST family. That's the kind of ethos that that comes very naturally to someone who's a associate. uh, Another thing that we did was, we had virtual lunches where you have leaders sitting down. So ideally we would have all gone to our campus and had, leadership lunches. We just moved it to the virtual format, and it was nice because everyone's eating the same meal as they would have earlier. They're still having those same intense conversations, cracking jokes, pulling each other's leg, and going back and just talking about it. And each of these activities just elevated the mood of everyone so much. It brought so much of positivity and positive vibes within the organization. If you look at it today, right, we are running vaccination drives across the country at all of our locations to make sure everyone and their dependents and family members are all vaccinated. Hospital rooms have been blocked and kept. What we have recently done is that, we know that a lot of our people have also got impacted with COVID. Thankfully most of them have completely recovered and have gotten back into the workplace. But unfortunately we've had to lose some of our associates to the pandemic. So we have gone ahead and committed that we would be paying the full salary to these employees families for the next 2 years, along with all the benefits that have come along with it, right? So these are, when people ask me and say, oh, you're doing so much for us, it doesn't seem like too much. These are just things that you would do to take care of your family and make sure that they are safe and that they're and continuing to enjoy work. And we very firmly believe that we are all in this together. Here I want to just quote, our chairman, Mr. G.A. Menon. He always used to say that we have different jobs, but we are all equal, right? And that is something that we all believe in, that, we are all equal, we are all together, we are one UST family. So whatever we can do to help each other out during these challenging times, we will. And this too shall pass. Nothing seems to last forever. The good times don't, so the bad times certainly won't. So this too shall pass, and we'll go back to living life, hopefully in a more realistic manner where we can meet people and meet each other. But till then, we'll continue to do what we can to support our associates working from home.
Great to hear that, Kavita. In fact, I must say that everything flows down from the top, right? And as you mentioned, the quote that you have mentioned about the managing director, I really feel that it's purely a reflection of the culture of an organization, right? So, well, I've been waiting to ask you this question, especially when you belong from that organizational transformation background, right? So, what is your take on the hierarchical structure and the traditional designations? Do you think the designations will undergo a sea change along with the accountability attached to them?
So, no, at UST, we are striving to move towards becoming a role-based organization, right? Where we are saying that we will, almost keep both of these separate. We'll keep them disjointed, right? One side you have your regular bands and designations and everything else, but they're connected to the roles that you play within the organization, and hence connected to the work level within the organization. But at the same time, we also recognize that it's important from a societal standpoint to build in career advancement and career progression and give people that movement of moving up the corporate ladder, because it adds immense value to them from a personal standpoint. So according to me, they are not two distinct identities, right? They both go hand in hand. If you want a role based, non-hierarchical, non-traditional organization, you need to put all of these processes in place. You just need to present it in a format that the choice is left to the person, right? So I can still get my career movements and move in that manner and get my career advancements and celebrate those moments of significance, and decide whether I want to grow laterally or I want to grow vertically. It's a personal choice that I would make as an employee. Whereas a hierarchy is concerned, that's never been, something that UST has been known for. It's been around for 22 years, and I think hierarchy is not something we have ever had to worry about, nor will we ever do. It's an extremely non-hierarchical organization in that sense. People have the freedom and the liberty to just ask anyone anything, have conversations, and they do that. There is a lot of democratic conversations that take place. There is a lot of deep listening that takes place. There is value in all the diverse views, irrespective of age or any of the other biases that might exist, that are respected and appreciated. If there is a good idea, it's a good idea. It really doesn't matter who's brought the idea and whose idea it's replaced, right? So that's really not a problem. From a traditional designation standpoint, it's like a cycle. Today I will say, senior manager, AVP, DVP, president is what is, really making sense. And after some time I'll say, you know what, I will not have any names, I will just have A1, A2, A3, A4. And then after a few years again I'll come back saying, actually we should call it senior manager, AVP, DVP. So it will keep going in and out. It will depend on what people are saying. But what we are moving towards is trying to make sure that it's a role-based organization. There are a few work levels so that people know exactly where they are within the organization. And depending on the role that they play, we are really giving people the freedom to decide what their designation is, so that it's more palatable to the clients they meet, it's more palatable to the peers that they interact with, the conferences that they go to. So those are some of the changes that we see, right? So hierarchy is not just an organizational construct, right? It just helps us process complexity in a very different way. So since we don't have that, we just try and simplify things to as much as possible and say, let's not complicate things. This is your role, this is all. However, if you feel that, in the market you need to be called something else and better connects, then please go ahead and call yourself that. We'll be more than happy to support that.
Great, Kavita, on that front. Well, something that I've got to ask you is regarding something which would definitely help the future thought leaders, right? So the aspiring future thought leaders would like to be guided to avoid mistakes in their career path, right? And getting that guidance from you, Kavita, would definitely be a value add. So
You
can you
shouldn't
throw some
avoid
light?
mistakes. You should make as many mistakes as you can.
Right, right.
Yeah, no, as I said, you shouldn't avoid mistakes at all. You should do as many mistakes as you can, especially upfront. However, the promise you should make yourself is that you wouldn't repeat the same mistake again, and that you would learn from those mistakes, right? No one has a perfect career with absolutely no mistakes, right? And as you say, I'm reminded of something that I did at the very beginning of my career, right? I was straight out of college and I went and at that time, when you had to make a PowerPoint or a worksheet and you had to print it out, you had to do it in DOS. So you made all the calculations and then you did asterisks, on your keyboard to really create a table of its own. And I was in an organization and we were doing this, and this was the first thing that I had to present, and it took me hours, but I put it together. And I went to my boss and I showed it to him, and he was so impressed, and he called everyone in the accounts and in the team, and he said, look, she's a fresher straight out of college, and look at how nicely she has done it, and this is how we should all do it. And I felt very good for those 5 minutes that he kept praising me for all that I'd done. And then he looked at me and he said, you know what, this last column that is there, you have right aligned it, just left align it and bring another printout and give it to me. So I looked at him and I'm like, just right align. He said, yeah, so there is this button, in case you don't, just press that, click that, and it will left align and bring it back. So I'm like, okay. So he said, so I'm waiting, go and bring it. So I'm like, it will take me at least, a couple of hours. He was like, why? He was like, you didn't save what you did. And I'm like, no, I didn't save it. He's like, why? And then, all the praise that was given to me was taken away, and I had to hear a long lecture about how it's important to save your work. But I always save my files after that, right? So before I even start typing an email, I first go do a save as and make sure that it is named. So I've never repeated that mistake. And it's a very small thing, but at that point in time, I thought my world was coming to an end, because there was, so many people doing what I did, and it was a big deal. You just need to, I think one thing that you have to really remember is that 5 years down the line, that won't matter, as long as you have that perspective and you do your work with the right intentions. right? You're not doing it. Nobody joins an organization saying, I'm joining and I'm going to be the worst low performer ever. Everyone joins with the intention of saying, I'm really going to hit the ball out of the park. I'm going to be the best performer that really is there, and I'm going to show everyone what I have, what it takes. There will be mistakes that will come along the way. I think it's important to own up to those mistakes, take responsibility for it, make sure they never happen again, and always have a group of mentors, coaches, guides, friends, family whom you can go back and talk to this about, because it's important to not let it bottle up. You just go talk about it. You should always have a group of people who are constantly telling you it's okay, we know you won't do it again, and go and try some more. That's very, very important.
Great, I must say that. Furthermore, Kavita, we have been building the global thought leaders community for cross pollination of knowledge. What are your thoughts about this initiative?
I think it's an amazing idea. It's always important to, understand other people's perspectives, right? We get so involved with what we are doing, and the space that we are in. The inward looking lens becomes so thick that we stop listening to outside perspectives and what other things that people might be doing, which might actually add value to the work that you do. So I think the council's a great idea, and it's a great opportunity to listen to some perspectives that may be very different from the way you look at things and what you do. And you never know what might click and what might really help you out. It's also a great way to network, right? So as I said in the beginning, for me, it's very important to build those relationships and networks. So building networks, collaborating, and creating new things all the time. I think, yeah, the council tick boxes all three of my to do things, right? So really a good initiative.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Well, I would really say that it was a very interesting conversation. Why I would say sensitive things nowadays. People really talk about COVID. People talk about pandemic. The pandemic has taught us many things. We talk in our homes. We talk when we are at work. But if you check, this session has really made us think that yes, take care of your people who are with you. The statement has changed. Don't take care of people who are with you, but also take care of people who were with you. So
Yeah,
this is really, really very important, because there is a saying that this is a very small world. People will get connected anytime.
absolutely.
We need to be very, very careful about that. There are a few people who have a lot of fear in them. If I ask this question, whether it will be right, am I making fool of my own self? Am I making a mistake? But the spotlight for today is make mistakes. No problem. Don't have that fear, but you should promise yourself that you will not repeat this mistake. There are many things to learn in this session, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm sure few things that will be taken by you will definitely take you to the next level. So we really thank Kavita for sharing the valuable insights and throwing maximum lights on all possible points which will definitely help the future leaders to evolve and explore in their careers. Thank you so much, Kavita, once again for
My
this
pleasure.
fabulous spotlight interview. And we see many more in future as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely being here.
Thank you so much.